I used to think the fake presents under the Christmas tree in our lobby were harmless. The first time I saw that child, she was sitting beside that tree holding a paper cup of water while I helped move the box that would have protected her. The first time I noticed the fake presents under the atrium tree, it was because they arrived before the tree did. They showed up on a gray Monday in late November, 8 glossy boxes wrapped in the same red and gold paper every year, each one perfect at the corners, each one tied with a bow that looked like it had been made by a machine that hated human hands. They were decor, which in our building meant that they were nobody's job and everybody's problem. I worked the visitor desk and badge office on the first floor of the County Services Center. That meant I printed temporary IDs, logged contractors, checked delivery manifests, and watched the cameras when the security team rotated to lunch. I wasn't part of the work upstairs: family services, records, compliance, the units with doors that required 2 separate keycards and a PIN. I was adjacent. I was the hallway between public and confidential, which is why I was trained to say certain words without thinking: chain of custody, confidential materials, due process, do not open sealed packets, do not handle restricted files unless assigned, do not allow anyone to tailgate. And also, in December, please do not touch the presents. We told the kids that like it was kindness. Parents would tug their children away from the tree, laughing, and I'd smile like I was protecting the magic. The security guard by the magnetometer would do the same thing. It was always the same script. They're fake, the parents would say. And everybody would nod because knowing they were empty was the whole point. They were to be looked at, not used. They were there to fill space so no one felt the absence of something real. By the first week of December, the tree was up, 9 feet, artificial, lit from within. A looped playlist played on speakers mounted to the ceiling, bells, strings, singers reminding you to be good. In a building where good was mostly a synonym for compliant, the music fit. The presents went underneath, lined up on the side facing the visitor chairs, red and gold, unwrapped, uninspected, untouched. That was the rule. It only takes one person to teach a room how not to look. On December 12th, around 3:40 p.m., the woman from Family Services came down with a child. I don't know her name then. Later I learned it was Miss Dorsey because her signature was on a form that I shouldn't have seen and never should have touched. At the time, she was just another county employee with a lanyard and the tired posture of someone who carried other people's emergencies in her shoulders. The child was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8, thin, hair pulled to tight braids, a puffy coat zipped all the way up even though the atrium was warm. She held a paper cup of water with both hands like she was afraid it would be taken. The girl didn't look at the tree. She didn't look at the presents. She watched the revolving door and flinched when it spun too fast. I stood up because that's what you do when a child walks into your line of sight and the building suddenly feels smaller. Miss Dorsey came to my counter and lowered her voice automatically, the way you do when you're handling something sensitive in a public space. "Can you print a temporary visitor pass?" she asked, "but please don't put the reason on it." "Yes, ma'am," I said. My hands moved before my brain did. She slid over a paper with a name on it. Not the child's, an adult name. The girl's name wasn't anywhere I could see. "It's for a guardian meeting," Miss Dorsey said. The girl's eyes stayed on the doors like it was a clock counting down. "Photo?" I asked. "No photo," Miss Dorsey said. "It's confidential." That word hit me the way it always did, like a door closing. The security guard, Collins, leaned in from his station and kept his voice neutral. "Everything okay?" Collins said. "Yes," Miss Dorsey said, too quickly. "Just sensitive. It's a family matter." The child tightened her grip on the cup until the lid creaked. I typed the adult name into the pass system, the printer word, plastic card, black letters. I slid it across. "Thank you," Miss Dorsey said. She didn't smile. When she turned to the child, she crouched slightly and softened her voice in a way that made my stomach drop, because you don't do that unless you're trying to keep something from breaking. "Sweetheart, we're going to sit right here," Miss Dorsey said, "right by the desk, okay?" The girl nodded without looking up. "You're safe," Miss Dorsey said. The girl's mouth moved like she was rehearsing something. I'm safe, the girl said, flatly. Miss Dorsey blinked once, like she heard that exact tone before. I'm going to go make a call. I'm right here, though, okay? She stepped away toward the wall by the tree, phone to her ear, eyes scanning the lobby like she was counting exits. The girl sat in the nearest chair, coat still zipped, hands still around the cup. I tried not to stare. You learn that kind of restraint working in a government building. People don't want your curiosity, they want your silence. But then the girl turned her head just enough that I saw it. Not gore, nothing dramatic, just a faint yellow bruise under her jawline, half hidden by her collar. Another shadow at the wrist, just above where her sleeve started. Marks that didn't belong to a child who was fine. Marks that made the words family matter feel like a lie. The door turned. The girl's shoulders rose. She looked at the entrance and whispered, barely audibly. He said, I say I fell, she said. I pretended to be checking the printer. My heart started racing like it wanted to outrun my job. Miss Dorsey came back to the counter, voice low. Okay, the Guardian is on their way, she said. Okay, I said, and I heard the weakness in my own voice. Collins watched the entrance with the kind of stillness you get when your body has already decided something is a threat. A man came in 10 minutes later, carrying a festive bag like it was a joke he was proud of. Mid-30s, clean jacket, office casual. The kind of person who knew how to smile at security like security was furniture. He walked straight toward the tree, not the desk, like he belonged there. The girl's hands clenched her cup again. Miss Dorsey stepped forward before he reached them. Sir, Miss Dorsey said, we need to talk upstairs, not here. The man spread his hands, palms up, the universal gesture of innocence. I'm just here for my niece, the man said. This is ridiculous. Sir, Collins said, voice firmer, you need to come through screening. The man's eyes flicked toward Collins, then back to Miss Dorsey with a smile that didn't reach his face. You people always make everything a scene, the man said. It's Christmas. Miss Dorsey's jaw tightened. It's a due process, Miss Dorsey said, and it's not a scene, it's procedure. The words landed hard. Procedure, due process. The language people use to keep themselves steady when the stakes are too human. Let's go, Miss Dorsey said. The man made a show of sighing like he was the victim of inconvenience and followed. The girl didn't move until Miss Dorsey came back and touched her shoulder gently. You're coming with me, Miss Dorsey said. Okay? The girl nodded, still not looking at the tree. They went through the secured door behind my counter, the one that led to the elevators that required a badge to call. Collins keyed them through. The magnet lock clicked, the door shut. For a moment, the lobby felt normal again, like the building had swallowed the problem. Then, 5 minutes later, a different man came down from the stairs. He was from the records office, or at least came that way. He wore a facilities badge, which meant he had access to places he shouldn't, the same way I did. He carried a clipboard and a roll of tape. His face was familiar in the way contractors become familiar when you see them weekly, but never learn their names. He approached the tree in the atrium with purposeful calm. I watched him on instinct because my job was watching. He bent and adjusted one of the fake presents. He rotated it slightly so the bow faced outward. Then he picked up the second largest box, red paper, gold ribbon, and cradled it like it weighed more than foam. He turned and walked toward the secured door behind my desk. I stood halfway without realizing it. Hey, I said, those have to stay here. The man didn't startle. He smiled, polite. Work order, he said, and tapped his clipboard like it was a badge all by itself. Collins glanced over. Facilities? Collins said. Yeah, the man said. Tree's too close to the outlets here in the ground. The fire marshal flagged it last year. We're shifting the arrangement around to comply. He said it like he'd stated it 100 times, like the building had trained him. I hesitated because the story sounded plausible and because it wasn't my tree or my presence. It's decor, I said weakly. It's county property, the man said. We don't want an incident report 2 weeks before Christmas, right? Collins chuckled under his breath because nobody wanted an incident report 2 weeks before Christmas. Go ahead, Collins said. The man walked through the secure door. And here's the part that keeps replaying for me: the way certain small actions become enormous when you understand what they enabled. The door has a magnet lock that stays open for exactly 8 seconds after a badge swipe. 8 seconds is generous for a person. It is not generous for a person carrying something awkward. The man balanced the box against his hip, fumbled at the keypad with his free hand. He looked at me like he expected help. I stepped forward automatically because I am a person who helps. I've got it, I said. I swiped my badge. I held the door. The man nodded in thanks, walked through, and disappeared into the hallway that led to restricted elevators. I watched the door close. I watched the camera feed, and I did what I always did. I logged a contractor movement in the visitor system as facilities seasonal maintenance, because that was the closest category, and my screen required a category to save. That entry is still in there if you pull December's logs. It looks so clean. The next day, the presents were back under the tree, arranged exactly as before. 8 boxes, same bows, same shine, like nothing had moved at all. That's when I started to feel uneasy, not because anything spooky happened, but because the world had proven it could change without leaving evidence of the change. A week passed, then another. The building got louder, holiday parties, cookie trays, people in ugly sweaters walking past the secure doors like their lives had nothing behind them. I kept seeing the girl in my mind, coat zipped up, hands around the cup, whispering. He said, I say I fell. I told myself I'd done the right thing by not interfering. I wasn't trained for that. I wasn't family services. I wasn't law enforcement. I was the badge office. It's amazing how comforting job descriptions can be. On December 28th, when most departments were running on skeleton crews, Miss Dorsey came down to my desk again. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Hey, I said, careful. How'd that situation go? She stared at me like she had to decide whether I was safe to talk to. Then she said flatly, we missed the window. What window? I asked, even though I already felt the answer in my chest. The emergency petition, Miss Dorsey said. The packet was sealed, time sensitive. It had the sworn statement, the photos, the intake notes. It had to be in records by close of business for the judge's review before the holiday calendar. My mouth went dry. It wasn't, she said. I gripped the edge of my counter. Where is it? I asked. Miss Dorsey's laugh was small and awful. If I knew that, she said, I wouldn't be standing here trying to figure out how to explain it without accusing someone I can't prove. Collins looked up, sensing something in her tone. What happened? Collins said. It vanished, Miss Dorsey said. And now everything has to go back to standard scheduling, standard investigation, standard notice. Standard due process, I heard myself say. Yes, Miss Dorsey said, and her eyes sharpened. And standard due process means the child stays where she is until we can reestablish cause. It means the adult gets notice. It means we lose surprise. It means we lose leverage. She didn't say the word abuse. She didn't have to. Her voice held it like a weight she'd carried for too long. And the child stays, I said faintly. For now, Miss Dorsey said, which is exactly what we were trying to prevent. I saw the red and gold presents in my mind like a row of teeth. I swallowed. A facilities guy moved one, I said. The words came out before I could stop them. Last week, he said it was a fire hazard, carried one through the secured door. Miss Dorsey didn't blink. Which one? She said. I don't know. They all look the same. They're supposed to be foam, Miss Dorsey said, voice low. They're supposed to be empty. They are empty, I said. And then I heard how stupid that sounded. Collins stood up fully. Did you log it? Collins asked. I logged seasonal maintenance, I said, shame heating my face. Because it was a present. Because it wasn't polite to question the decor. Because it was Christmas. Miss Dorsey turned and looked at the tree. The lights blinked patiently. The fake presents sat under it, identical and innocent. She walked toward them with slow, deliberate steps, like she was approaching something that could explode without noise. Don't, I said, because reflexes are cruel. We tell people not to. Miss Dorsey ignored me. She crouched and put her hands on the largest box. Her fingers pressed into it. She frowned. Then she pressed again, harder, and the box didn't give the way foam should have. She looked back at me, and in her expression was a question that made my stomach turn. How many times has this worked? Collins moved beside her. Ma'am, we can't just... It's county property, Miss Dorsey said. Her voice was calm in a way that terrified me. We don't want an incident report 2 weeks after Christmas, right? She untied the bow with hands that didn't shake. Under the ribbon was tape. Under the tape was more tape. Careful tape. Professional tape. The paper peeled back to reveal a plain cardboard lid. Miss Dorsey paused, and for 1 second she looked like she was deciding whether she wanted to know. And then she opened it. Inside wasn't a monster. Inside was a sealed envelope with a red stripe across the top and black block letters stamped on it. Confidential, child protective, time sensitive. And beneath that, on a second sticker, do not duplicate, originals enclosed. I felt my knees go weak. Miss Dorsey lifted the envelope like it was fragile. It was here, she said. It was under the tree, Collins said, disbelief thick in his voice. Miss Dorsey's eyes closed for a moment. Who put it back? She whispered. I thought of the man with the clipboard, smiling politely. I thought of how easy it had been, how natural. I thought of the magnet lock and my badge and my hand holding that door open for him. I did, I said, before I even understood I was speaking. They both looked at me. No, I said, my voice cracked. Not like that. I mean, I helped him carry it through. I helped him move it. I didn't know what it was. Miss Dorsey stared at me, and there was no anger in her face. That was worse. There can't be any question about this, she said softly, as if she was reminding herself. That packet is what makes intervention possible. It's the difference between we suspect and we can act. It's due process. It's lawful removal. It's protection that stands up in court. She looked at the envelope again. And it sat under a Christmas tree, she said, voice hollow, because people don't open presents that aren't theirs. Collins swallowed hard. We can still file it, Collins said. Miss Dorsey shook her head. The judge's emergency calendar is closed, she said. The statutory timeline moved. The notice requirements shift. It's not about having it. It's about when we had it. She held the envelope a little tighter. The child stays, she said. And now her verse finally broke. Because the building had decor. After that, everyone did their jobs perfectly. Collins pulled footage. I printed logs. Supervisors were called. Doors were checked. The facility's roster was requested. The tree was moved 3 feet away from the outlet, as if that was the relevant danger. The envelope was walked upstairs under escort, as if it hadn't already been carried past us once. In January, there was an internal memo about seasonal decorations and security protocols. It used the words process improvement and lessons learned. It did not use the words child or stays. I never saw that girl again. But I started noticing the small things the buildings had trained me not to notice or to notice. How many times people carried boxes through secured doors because they looked like they belonged. How often confidential meant don't ask. How easily my badge could become someone else's permission. And how the fake presents under the tree were the perfect shape for a secret because everyone agreed that they were empty. This year, the presents came early again. Same red and gold paper, same bows, same shine. I stood at my desk and watched a father guide his toddler away from the tree. Don't touch, the father said, smiling. They're fake. The toddler pouted and obeyed. I looked at the largest box. I looked at the seam where the ribbon crossed. I imagined tape beneath it. Careful tape. Professional tape. Collins, older now, a little grayer, caught my eye. You okay? He said. I'm fine, I said, because I've practiced that line. The music loop restarted overhead. The lights blinked patiently, and the presents waited under the tree exactly where nobody was allowed to look. Not everything dangerous feels chaotic. Sometimes it feels calm, approved, and properly labeled. It lives in procedures followed too well and in moments when nothing feels urgent enough to stop. Remember that care sometimes means slowing down and asking one more question. Take care of yourself and others, and thank you for being here.